Value for users and tech for good. WeChat's ESG mission can be achieved at scale by providing technical solutions for small to medium-sized businesses, which make up 90% of China's economy. Good morning, judges. My name is Thomas, and I'm joined today by Chloe, Hannah, and Gary. Today, we are beyond excited to bring to you a stellar recommendation to service SMEs with WeChat. Let's begin by understanding our customers at a personal level. More specifically, let's see what we can learn from Miss Lin.
My name is Miss Lin, and I own a small fruit stall in a small town in China. Fun fact, I've been selling fruit for over 20 years now. I feel deeply connected to my local community, and most of my customers are regulars.
Despite Miss Lin's apparent business prosperity, things have been looking down lately.
I often find myself competing with large fruit distributors in my town who have more resources and technological tools. In comparison, I am not that tech savvy. I can do the basic functions on my phone, but complex functions like data analysis are beyond my abilities. I still do almost everything by hand in my notebook.
Alarmingly, Miss Lin is not facing this issue alone. As of 2021, there are 29 million small businesses like hers across China. Despite the heterogeneity of this industry, SMEs face many of the same tech problems as Miss Lin. Now, let's turn back to WeChat. As China's largest messaging, social media, and mobile payment app, WeChat is an ecosystem consisting of many apps, including WeChat Pay, a mobile payment and digital wallet service. It has a mostly Chinese user base of 1.2 billion accounts. WeChat's parent company, Tencent, has socially responsible initiatives. One of WeChat's ESG efforts is to provide technical solutions to assist SMEs. Thus, we have now come to the crux of this case. How can WeChat help SME owners like Miss Lin with digital services?
Thank you, Thomas. Today, we will introduce WeChat Pay Express, a new solution that combines the ease of using a personal account with the professional benefits of a business account. This will create an approachable, easy-to-use solution for all SMEs, regardless of their digital literacy. We will also explain how the SME journey is broken down into 3 steps: set up, sell, and sustain. WeChat Pay Express will cater to the pain points that SMEs face at each step. In setup, we will leverage a WeChat bot to guide digitally illiterate business owners through the registration. In sell, we will relieve the burden that SMEs face when conducting business transactions. And finally, to help SMEs sustain their business, we will introduce community features to help them contact and retain their customers. Before diving into our solution, we must understand the unique needs of our key stakeholders. Beginning with business operations, Tencent and WeChat want to take advantage of trends in China, not only to profit, but to also bring positive change in society. Next, we have the SMEs who wish to operate efficiently and at a profit. However, it is very difficult to adapt to the rapidly changing environment and improve their digital literacy. Last but not least is the Chinese government. Their goal is to reduce illegal activities, such as fraud on the WeChat platform. Diving deeper into the SMEs, they play a key role in the Chinese economy. More than 90% of these Chinese companies were SMEs, which creates 80% of job opportunities and contribute to over 60% of national GDP. Upon further analysis, we have pinpointed the industry breakdown of the SMEs. The 4 biggest industries are manufacturing, wholesale/retail, transportation, and construction. At first, it seems like segmenting by industry is the logical next step. However, the landscape within an industry is not homogeneous. SMEs include both small and medium-sized businesses, which are actually quite different in nature. For example, in the first row, the requirement for a medium-sized enterprise in the manufacturing industry is less than 300 employees, while the requirement for a small-sized business, also in the manufacturing industry, is fewer than 20 employees. Thus, we can conclude that even though they're in the same industry, they cannot be treated equally. By now, we have realized that SMEs are diverse in terms of industry and size. Just like WeChat has identified in the case itself, it is difficult to segment SMEs due to their diversity and complexity. However, WeChat can choose a different approach by focusing on the universal needs of SMEs. Taking a step back, we can see that all of these businesses share 2 common issues. First, it is hard to obtain financial capital. SMEs typically have low income and sometimes they cannot afford WeChat Pay options. Second, limited human capital. SMEs have few employees who are also not very tech savvy and even lack essential business skills like marketing. These two issues leads us to the core problem, a lack of digital literacy. Now, how can WeChat help? Over to you, Hannah.
Thanks, Gary. We were originally asked the following questions, as you can see on the slide. But now that Gary identified a lack of digital literacy as the root problem for all SMEs, we can now ask the question, how can WeChat Pay address the lack of digital literacy in SMEs with a technological solution? Let's take a look at how digital literacy leads to issues in the SME journey with the current WeChat Pay tool. There are 3 steps in the journey. First, SMEs have to set up their WeChat Pay with either a personal payment collection code or a business one. After setting up, SMEs can then sell by using WeChat Pay to conduct payments with customers through a variety of options from quick pay to QR codes. Lastly, after a customer pays, SMEs have to be sustained. They must verify the payment and conduct customer service after the transaction. However, this journey is disconnected because of the pain points. Starting at the left in setup, many SMEs will immediately abandon the tool after realizing WeChat Pay is not like WeChat messaging and are thus intimidated by the tool's maintenance. This leads to the current significant number of silent merchants, over 70% of which are SMEs who obtain a business account but don't conduct any transactions. Next, in the middle column in cell, we see SMEs face a number of payment method and payment confirmation challenges. Normally, key account merchants like convenience stores utilize transaction tools like POS systems and large print QR codes. However, these options are too expensive for SMEs. And thus, in most cases, they opt to use their personal payment code, which leads to higher risk of missed and fraudulent payments. For a small business, this can also lead to a huge daily revenue loss as well. And lastly, in the rightmost column, sustain, SMEs do not have access to business management tools and are inefficient at verifying payments. So now I'll pass it on to Chloe to dive deeper into the misalignment between WeChat and SMEs.
So while WeChat Pay wants to have their technical solutions support SMEs, their current product offerings do not cater to them. Currently, many SMEs are deterred from using the business WeChat Pay option in the right column because it takes 2 to 3 days to verify them as a business, and it has to be done through a personal computer, which many of them don't have. In the cell stage, the higher fees of obtaining and using a separate POS system is often just too much for small businesses. Even the mini POS that was previously introduced by WeChat in an attempt to address this was not well received, meaning a more accessible option with more competitive fees must be created. As a result, 70% of SMEs on WeChat opt for the personal WeChat wallet as a way to implement WeChat payment into their business, but resultantly do not have access to the other features such as fraud protection, customer relationship management, and more that come with WeChat Pay. To really be able to create tech for good, WeChat needs to add an intermediate offering that addresses the glaring barriers to SME integration of their products. And so introducing WeChat Pay Express, a middle option that will combine the elements of both the personal and business accounts that are the most necessary for SMEs to provide something with the ideal features at a lower cost. Let's dive into each of the elements of WeChat Pay Express to see how it revamps the entire WeChat Pay process to really take on all the issues in every step of the SME journey. I'll pass it off to Gary to dive into the first stage, setup.
Thank you, Chloe. Without a doubt, the business verification process is essential to ensure that only legitimate businesses are processing orders through WeChat. However, the current process in WeChat Pay is challenging due to 2 reasons: lengthy processes and a lack of digital literacy. At the same time, the personal WeChat wallet option only verifies the identity, but not the business itself. This puts Tencent at a risk for fraudulent activity. Thus, we introduced the WeChat bot. As you can see in the image on the right, the WeChat bot sends messages to the SME owners as they register the business onto the platform, which takes place right on WeChat. It asks for the same information that is currently required and essentially fills it out for the individual. It will also ask for the required documents, which the user can take a picture of, and then Tencent's AI will be able to extract the key information from it. Because the WeChat bot can register and process the form, the verification process will be significantly faster and take less than a day. The WeChat bot is a feature that is used in all 3 steps of our solution. It can also provide a step-by-step instruction for how to use the WeChat Pay Express to sell and sustain their business. The WeChat bot's educational and supportive nature will resolve the problem of limited digital literacy that leads to silent merchants. Additionally, as you can see on the slide, using it is as easy and comfortable as texting a friend, which will make SMEs feel confident and supported. Now, returning to our journey, we have effectively tackled many of Ms. Lin's pain points. With the WeChat bot and 2x faster sign-up process, she's ready to use WeChat Pay to sell. Now, I'll pass it off to Thomas to explain the next step.
Thank you, Gary. So now that Ms. Lin has set up, how exactly will WeChat Pay Express support her payment process? To address this, let's understand 3 benefits sought by SMEs: affordability, efficiency, and reliability. Perhaps the biggest pain point of the full WeChat Pay service is the high transaction fee, which must be tailored in order to foster adoption from SMEs. And that's why WeChat Pay Express has a new incremental fee structure. Upon registration, users will incur the same exact fee as a personal account, 0.1%. Next year, the service fee will increase by 0.1%. At this time, the user stickiness to the platform is already high because users will have realized the value of CRM and POS features, which Chloe will further discuss. The fee increases are then capped at 0.3%, equivalent to WeChat Pay's lower bound. We anticipate that SMEs who use WeChat Pay Express will more than earn back these service fees in the form of time savings. Through the incremental fee structure, SME owners are more likely to be upsold into the full WeChat Pay program, which goes up to 0.6% fee and provides a myriad of other tech offerings. With that, back to you, Gary.
In addition to a need for low cost, SMEs need a system that is quick and easy to use, especially given their busy schedule and their lack of human resources. A key takeaway in their key business operation is to ensure that they actually receive legitimate payments for every sale. This is where the new mobile POS system comes in. Users will be able to register their mobile devices to become their storefront's POS. Unlike before, up to 3 registered users per business can do so. This resolves the problem of how personal WeChat Wallet only permits the usage on one phone, requiring whoever owns the account to be in the store at all times. During a transaction, the customer will scan the unique QR code, and the merchant will receive 3 signals: a green screen with a check mark, a buzz, and the existing sound. These 3 components will make it easy for the owner to recognize that the payment has been processed, even in loud environments, before transferring the product over to the customer. Using the WeChat bot and the new mobile POS system, Ms. Lin will have a friendly and relatable process that she can use to serve customers like Tony every day. Now, we just have one last step to go. Over to you, Chloe.
Beyond just collecting payment, WeChat wants to be an all-around operations service provider. So, WeChat Pay Express will also provide essential tools that SMEs need to sustain their business. To figure out what these tools should be, we asked, what is taking up most of SME owners' time? And this was narrowed down into 2 things. First, the verification and accounting of transactions, which many SMEs spend hours doing one by one. And secondly, customer relationship management, which many SMEs end up losing out on because of their limited resources. To tackle these, first, the mobile POS that collects payment automatically creates a log of transactions which are linked to customer type. This allows the business owner to go through each transaction that went through WeChat each day without having to manually input them all themselves. Since the transactions are done through WeChat, the app is able to collect all transactions done through a single WeChat ID and generate simple customer profiles, including things such as what they most frequently buy or what times they most frequently visit the store.
Then the SME owner can easily message all customers of one type to send mass communications on WeChat, like promotions, messages, and discounts. This streamlines the process of what some SMEs are currently already doing in creating customer group chats, which has proven to have a better business result than SMEs who don't. At the same time, the communication is still simple to use and authentic because it all happens through WeChat itself. In addition, as seen on the bottom half of this slide, the SME can ask WeChat Pay Express to automatically send customers a WeChat message after each purchase to sign up for additional promotions and communications, similar to registering for email marketing. This creates additional value for the SME by generating customer loyalty, enabling them to flourish more than they have ever before. Finally, WeChat Pay Express automates answers to daily customer inquiries. Facilitated through the WeChat bot from the first stage, setup, the owner can input preset responses to common questions. Then the customers messaging the business will receive the responses as if they were messaging the owners themselves. For other inquiries without a preset response, the bot will bucket them for the owner to answer later. Ultimately, the two functions of accounting and CRM will be the focused tools of WeChat Pay Express in the sustain stage, which are the most consuming areas for SME owners. Now, Ms. Lin has a streamlined business management process, but beyond just benefiting her individually, the WeChat Pay Express CRM elements will help her connect and better serve customers like Tony.
And so to recap, WeChat Pay Express is an end-to-end solution that revolutionizes payment and business operations for SMEs, innovating the way that these owners run their businesses. In setup, we leverage a user-friendly WeChat bot to walk users through registration, eliminating digital literacy barriers to adoption. When selling, we remove the burden of high transaction and setup fees through a shared mobile POS system. And finally, in the sustain stage, we provide only the most essential tools to save SME owners valuable time and help their businesses achieve sustainable growth. WeChat Pay Express is a robust solution that can be implemented by the end of 2022. Our go-to-market strategy includes leveraging a targeted marketing campaign. And we'll do initial test launches in cities like Shandong, which have low digital literacy rates and a high rate of personal accounts being used for business purposes. AI will be used to detect patterns of payment and messages that indicate misused accounts, and the conversion of those accounts will be the first targets for marketing WeChat Pay Express. After this solution is launched, WeChat is also primed to support SME sustainability in the long term by developing their digital literacy to allow them to integrate into e-commerce in the future. And so while WeChat Pay Express solution does pose some risks, they can also be mitigated. The most significant risk is related to competition, as Alipay is neck and neck with WeChat when it comes to obtaining the SME market. We can mitigate this by focusing our marketing and product efforts towards communicating the unique value proposition of our new product and being the perfect medium for SMEs. Now, Thomas, what impacts do our solution drive?
In a nutshell, the solution adds 23 billion yuan of NPV to Tencent. We took a top-down approach to the revenue build for the solution. The key metric to obtain was the fraction of SMEs on personal accounts, which is 70%. Over a 3-year period, comparables were able to convert 90% of those misused accounts. We believe we can reach, if not exceed this number, given the synergy of our existing algorithms with targeted marketing campaign. Working these assumptions into our model, we can convert 22 million accounts. The fee structure is the same for personal accounts for the first year. Therefore, incremental revenues will only start being collected after the service fee hike in year 2. This is the main revenue driver, bringing a total of 65 billion RMB. We took a bottom-up approach to the cost analysis consisting of 2 categories, software and marketing. High-end software developers earn around 500K in China, and we plan on hiring 500 in the first year. The marketing campaign is designed to reach 25 million people dispersed throughout China, and this will cost 1.5 billion RMB in year 1. Now, taking a bird's eye view on the situation, we project a 2.5-year break-even point. The initial investment can be funded by a mix of retained earnings and Tencent's other subsidiaries. In addition to being profitable for Tencent, WeChat Pay user saves 457 million hours for people like Ms. Lin over the projected time span. At a recent forum, China's vice premier said that SMEs are the mainstay of the market and the main source of jobs. With quick onboarding and daily 2-hour savings through the CRM system, Ms. Lin can spend more time on what truly matters to her.
In conclusion, we present to you our solution, WeChat Pay Express, which is an expressway for success for SMEs. Now, small business owners like Ms. Lin will be able to fully utilize WeChat Pay Express to succeed in the rapidly changing Chinese economy. Together, we can transform the Chinese payment system and change lives all across the country. Thank you for watching our presentation, and now we will open up the floors to Q&A.
Thank you, students, for the presentation. We have 15 minutes for Q&A. Let's get a timer ready. Okay, now let's have the first question from our judges.
Hi, thank you very much for the presentation. Would like to start by looking at your analysis of the risks. You mentioned about competition. Can you elaborate more how you address that, please?
Yes, for sure. I can tackle this problem. This is a great question, and it is something that we've considered a lot into. So we have identified that the biggest competitor for WeChat Pay is Alipay. Those two companies, WeChat Pay and Alipay, are a duopoly in the Chinese mobile payment industry. Those two companies alone take up 90% of the overall industry. However, there is actually a key difference between those two companies, which is that Alipay is focused on e-commerce, while WeChat Pay is focused on data-based transactions, which is perfect for small businesses, SMEs, like Miss Lin. As a result, WeChat Pay has a natural advantage for this solution. In addition, we plan on reaching those customers to fully mitigate the risk by sending marketing promotions to them on WeChat itself. That way, we'll ensure that users will want to use this app over Alipay and other services. Thank you.
Thank you. So a related question is you get the customers, you reach out to them, send them communications and all that. And what is the costs element of it in your business case? The initial outlay, where you get you mentioned about the fund, getting the funds from. Can you explain a little more where you get the funds from?
Absolutely. So currently the structure of Tencent is a parent company with a lot of different subsidiaries. WeChat is the main subsidiary. And so for upfront costs, they'll be facing 10 billion RMB until the break-even point, which is 2.5 years into the solution. So to answer your question more specifically, those features like messaging or bots, the POS system, all of that will be bundled into essentially one cost bucket, which is software engineering. And those costs add up to 10 billion RMB, as I said, over the initial investment period, and are funded by a mix of retained earnings, which WeChat has accumulated over the years, and other subsidiaries in the Tencent sort of parent company.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, could you please go over a little bit more about the verification of the WeChat bot? I think, so what is actually the key difference between that and the personal WeChat? Because I think for the personal WeChat, you will also got a notification that for example, the customer has paid already.
So the key difference here that differentiates it is that with the WeChat Pay Express, the businesses will be verifying initially in the first stage, which was set up, that they are a business, and that's the kind of the difference with the personal and the full WeChat Pay for business. And so they'll be registered as a business, and so any of the funds that they collect will be done through this mobile POS system. So originally, when customers use their personal wallet, the verification is not as secure because WeChat doesn't recognize that they're a business, and as well, they don't have all three of the signals, which are the green screen on their phone with the check mark and the buzz and the sound. So originally they only had the sound, and that was pretty inadequate for a lot of businesses given the nature of many SMEs in their business environment. And so this kind of enhances the features that the WeChat personal system already had, while providing that additional verification in the initial stage for WeChat to recognize them as a business and for those funds to be more secure.
And I guess riding on that, because I think as highlighted in the case, a lot of the SMEs are facing very difficult operating environment. In terms of the charges, if they don't have enough money, are there any solutions that the team had thought of in order to assist them?
Yeah, so when they initially sign up for WeChat Pay Express, they're actually facing the exact same transaction fee per transaction as they initially did with the WeChat wallet, which was 0.1% per transaction. And actually, it only increases after the first year of operations of using WeChat Pay Express, in which it increases an additional 0.1%. But after this, by using WeChat Pay Express, we do anticipate that their businesses will grow, and they'll be able to use the features more thoroughly, and they'll enjoy it a lot more. And so they'll be able to pay the increased service fees as the years go on. But initially, the transition into WeChat Pay Express, essentially, it causes no additional charge for them.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, what do you think your top risks are for implementation of this? So what are the top 3 risks?
Of course, thank you for the question, Allison. If we can navigate to our risk and mitigation sides, my team members did touch a bit on risk number 3. And so some of the other risks that we also consider, first of all, listed in number 1 is potentially the low adoption from SMEs, because our solution is addressable for a multitude of industries. There is that risk that we might see variance in adoption rates. And so our solution and mitigation for this would be to look at narrowing down our scope perhaps and looking at specific offerings and doing a bit more customization for specific industries as well. This is already also embedded into our solution because currently WeChat Pay's cost structure is dependent on your industry. The service fee, for instance, for the business account right now ranges from 0.3 to 0.6 based on your industry already. So this is something we can also potentially leverage. And secondly, as well here, the potential risk with payment security, as well as specifically, for instance, the transfer of illegal funds. This is also something we took in consideration, and we were definitely mindful of the nature of the business environment we're in.
Okay.
Sorry, Anastasia.
Go, Anastasia. No, by all means.
Oh, thank you. I have a question on ESG. I was wondering, have you considered ESG implications? And if so, where they are and how you're going to do about it?
Absolutely. So there are 2 main sort of buckets of ESG implications we consider. The first one is social, and the second is environmental. I think the governance one is already tackled by the nature of our solution being helpful for management across WeChat. So first, in terms of social, can we navigate to the hour saving slide? So we mentioned throughout our solution that the POS and the CRM systems are going to save a lot of time for these business owners across China. In the case, it was specified that they save, and I quote, multiple hours, or they spend, and I quote, multiple hours a day messaging customers individually, etc. So if we cut out that time and we assume that multiple is a minimum of 2, which is what we did in this model right here, we estimate that we're able to save for those 22 million users a total of, and I look for my number here, 457 million hours. So that's over the time projection that we estimated. Now, the second bucket that I want to talk about is in terms of environmental. We also know that air pollution is a big issue in China. And so we leaned in on that issue and conducted some research. And we found that according to Chinese census data, SMEs emit 17% less air pollution than their KA counterparts in manufacturing. If you remember from the industry breakdown, manufacturing makes up more than half of the ESG industry. So this is going to be a significant reduction in carbon emissions. So that's how we're sort of tackling the environmental issue, is by nature of supporting these businesses, SMEs.
And in terms of governance, the G, anything you thought about?
Absolutely. So there's kind of 2 aspects to this as well. The government of China itself is very focused on reducing the amount of fraud that's taking place and trying to change sort of how things are like taking place in terms of financial transactions. And so by moving people away from using personal accounts towards business accounts, we're aligned with governmental objectives. And in terms of the company's governance structure, I think that the connection that they're going to be able to develop with SMEs and local communities in China is going to help them foster a better relationship with that environment. And so that kind of tackles that aspect of it.
Do you think, let's call it WeChat, has the skill base, or are there dependencies that maybe aren't mentioned here that need to be addressed?
Do you mean dependencies in?
Dependencies outside their company.
So actually, since WeChat is a part of Tencent, Tencent has a lot of existing technology and research that they're doing in, machine learning, natural language processing, speech recognition, and all of those technologies that they can leverage. And since WeChat's part of Tencent, we plan to make that connection and leverage those research and technology. So a lot of it is done through Tencent.
So going back a little bit, I think at the start of the presentation, the team mentioned about the SME landscape in terms of the different behavior of the different sectors. So in terms of your solution, do you have a slightly different tweak of the solution for different types of SMEs, or the solution is only targeting for a certain segment?
Yes, for sure. I can tackle this question. So the purpose of us diving so deep into the analysis of SMEs and analyzing their industry was because the case itself asked us to do that. They mentioned how SMEs are a very diverse industry with different companies of different sizes, which is why we want to look at how can we serve their needs and demands the best. But however, upon further analysis, we realized that there are a lot of industries, and within each industry, there are so many different types of businesses. For example, medium businesses are different from small businesses. And as a result, we have realized that it is actually quite impractical for WeChat to target every single industry alone. That's why we came to the conclusion that they should target universal needs, such as a lack of financial capital, lack of human capital, which leads to a lack of digital literacy. As well, to answer your question more specifically about whether each business will require a different business model, we are targeting towards a segment of SMEs that would meet our solution the most. So for example, if your business is a bit larger, say you have 1,000 people and your annual revenue is over $100 million, then the professional business account, the one that is slightly more expensive, is a better option for you. However, our current solution, which is Express, does tap into a very large target audience and a very large customer base.
Thank you. That's clear now. Thanks.
I would like to ask a question. Earlier on, I think you mentioned about starting in Shandong, places like, to test the idea. So what is the plan on rolling out to other cities? And what are the success criteria for you to go to a broader geographically rollout?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is a great question because we definitely want to start launching our solution from places where we know it's going to succeed, and then maintain those KPIs throughout to make sure that as the implementation rolls out, our ROI is obviously positive. So first, we're going to start with cities that have low literacy rates across China. The literacy rate, technological literacy rate, that is, the average is 3% across China. From certain provinces that we looked at, we saw a range from about 1 to 4%. So we're going to start with the 4% technological illiteracy rates and move to the more technologically literate areas, because we know that the least technologically literate areas are going to have the highest demand for products like this that are going to help people adjust to changing business environments and the increasing necessity of technology in these business environments. To answer the second part of your question, in terms of KPIs to keep expanding the solution, we're targeting a 90% conversion rate of fraudulent accounts or personal accounts that are used for businesses converted to this Express solution. And we got that 90% from looking at competition, such as WhatsApp Business, Union Pay, and 99 Bill. And so they face kind of similar issues. And we're saying basically, if we can keep achieving that 90% conversion rate, we're going to keep expanding this solution to more technologically literate areas, which have lower penetration rates by nature.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I think that concludes our Q&A session. Thank you very much, students and judges. The judges, please stay in the room for deliberation, and U of T team, we're going to put you in the waiting room and bring you back for feedback session in 8 minutes. Thank you.